up, guys? Welcome back to Zilla MMA. I am your host, as always, the Zilla. Merry Christmas, first of all, this time. Going to get a little out of our normal starting routine to wish you a Merry Christmas. Hope everyone had a great holiday. Um, Obviously, we've had a couple weeks off, and I decided I need to get a little content out there. So we've got this one coming, and then another video coming later. This one being my award show for the year. So, for those of you who are tuning in, thank you. This is the time I'll take to thank you, the viewers. Really appreciate you guys watching. Please please subscribe. We get a lot of viewers that aren't subscribing, so please go subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments if you disagree with some of these takes, and I'd love to hear what your opinions are on these. But gonna go ahead and go through a quick 12 awards on this show. Just some ones that I've put together that I think are some interesting. Some of the standard ones that you'll see on all the MMA shows, and then a couple that I've added a little more specific to my show. Um, and I don't want these to necessarily be the best overall of the year. Going forward, hopefully, we're still going next year. We've got the viewership up, we've got the subscribers up, and I can put out some polls. We'll have candidates for each of these, and you guys can vote on who you think should win for each of these awards. But this year being, we didn't get started until late into the year, and the viewership's not quite to a point where that's sustainable yet. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to give the awards out this year, which I still think will be pretty cool, because some of these you're obviously going to notice are really tailored just to this show. The first one being this first award. First award is going to be to our Rookie of the Year. And if you are a fan of this show and you have watched and you've gotten my picks, this should come as no surprise to you whatsoever. This is going to go to Mr. Oralby. My Tibet Oralby has just been an absolute stud for us in his UFC debut. Just a guy I was really confident in coming into the UFC, and he performed exactly as we wanted him to against Medic. Goes in, gets victory via neck crank. This being just about a month and a half ago. Very exciting fight, and a guy who I have a lot of confidence in going forward. He's already on our Zilla's Heroes list. I think he's going to be a real contender here in the UFC, and so I'm really excited to see what he can do. And just was a no-brainer for me. I know there's some bigger names out there, but Oralby is my Rookie of the Year. Next, we're going to go to Retirement of the Year. And I know there were some that were more impactful to some than the one I chose, but I gave mine, number one, to a fighter who had a lot of impact to me, just kind of in his heyday when I started getting into MMA and loving the UFC. And I was very excited watching him, a guy who I've really enjoyed watching his career. And seeing him go is very sad for me. Also, just a fantastic exit. And I'll go ahead and reveal who this is. This is the Korean Zombie. Gets that fight against Max Holloway. Just puts everything he has out there like he does in every single fight. Gets the amazing send-off of the fans singing his song in Singapore. It's just what you hope for. Obviously, I'd love to see fighters go out on top, but when they don't, this is just the next best scenario. Just seeing, knowing when to step away from the sport, having the support of the fans on the way out the door. It's something I loved getting to see. There's a lot of fighters that go on too long, and you don't. It almost becomes sad. You don't want to see him fight anymore. Kind of, the Tony Ferguson route we've seen as of late. It's tough to watch, and I think Korean Zombie stepped out at the right time, had a great sending off, and so he's going to win my Retirement of the Year. Next, we'll move to our Submission of the Year. A couple candidates for this one. I decided not to go with most impactful. I decided to be pure Submission of the Year. Most impactful, this probably would have gone to John Jones over Cyril Gahn. Just the way he was able to execute that submission and what it means to the UFC currently and to the legacy of John Jones. I mean, it'd be hard to dispute that. But I'm a sucker for really cool and exciting submissions. only a few of these in the UFC, and so it's going to get it from me almost every time. I'm going to go with Damon Blackshear here, getting his win via twister uh, against Jose Johnson. Just what a performance. I love the twister is just such a cool submission. You don't get to see it often. Also, a lot of credit to Damon Blackshear. He had a very active year. Tried and come back a week after that to fight Mario Batista. Unfortunately, took the loss via decision. But a very impressive fighter in 2023. Put on some great performances for us and got that submission of the year in my book. Next, we have knockout of the year. This one might be a little controversial. You guys are going to probably think this is a little recency bias, but I have to say this is the hardest knockout that I can remember. Just it's very rare you see things that you don't see in the UFC. You know, I've never seen a knockout of this caliber. It's very rare that I'm sitting there and saying I haven't seen something like this before. And I got that just a couple weeks ago with Josh Emmett and his knockout over Bryce Mitchell. I mean, it was just surreal. It was one of the hardest hits I've ever seen. We see Bryce Mitchell convulsing after the knockout. I mean, it's hard to take anything away from that. I know there's probably a bunch further back in the year that a lot of people think should go over this. But for me, it's one of the best knockouts I've ever seen. And so I'm going to take my boy Josh Emmett here for knockout of the year. Next, we're going to move into entrance of the year. This is one that definitely has the bias of me. And hopefully, like I said, I want things from the show to impact these. And so this happened before I was doing the show, but was something that happened to me. And in future years, this would be the type of thing that we rode together where we're doing live streams. You guys see this firsthand. So this is something that happened to me. I went out to a bar to watch this card and had money on the other guy, and I see this fighter walk, and before he's even gotten to the octagon, I know I'm on the wrong side. That doesn't happen that often, but this was just one of those crazy cases. And this was Sugar Sean O'Malley making his walk against Aljamain Sterling, coming out to Superstar by Lupe Fiasco, and it was just a complete change in the environment. I I was so confident all week in Aljo coming into that fight, and as I watched I apologize, Sean O'Malley make this walk, I just knew that I was on the wrong side instantly. Wish I could have got my money back out. Wish I could have flipped to the other side, but O'Malley is the entrance of the year. Just so impactful, just one of those ones that raises the hairs on your arms, gives you goosebumps watching him walk. So very, very exciting one there. I think O'Malley is very well deserving of Walk of the Year and was certainly a candidate for Fighter of the Year. We'll move into Card of the Year. This one pretty easy for me, actually. This card just so great, top to bottom. Going to go ahead and reveal it just so we can go through the fights. This is an easy one. It's UFC 285, Jones versus Gane. Just because the impact this had that night, on top of the impact it's going to have on the UFC going forward. I mean, we have John Jones winning the title, Grasso, the big upset over Shevchenko, Rachmanov establishes himself, Gamrot establishes himself, Bo Nickel becomes a big guy in the UFC. Garbrandt shows that he's back, getting back into the swing of things. All the way down here, on the only the 8th fight of the card. I think we're on the prelims with this. You have Dricus du Plessis, who is fighting for the title now. Ian Gary's on this card. Cameron Simon's on this card. I mean, just the quality of fighters, top to bottom, it doesn't get much better than that. Obviously, we were hoping for something similar to that last week. In my opinion, we didn't get that in that card. But this card, just top to bottom, great fighters. Fighters who are going to have an impact all the way down the card, who are going to have an impact on the UFC for years to come. So easy for me. UFC card of the year is going to be UFC 285. Next, we have upset of the year, coming off the same card. Another one that I have a funny little story about. So I had gone out for this fight as well, was sitting at the bar, had, we'll go ahead and reveal who it was, had Shevchenko in a bunch of parlays, just a parlay piece to get things down closer to even. She was a huge favorite here. I'm sitting at the bar, and there's a guy walking around trying to. He wanted to bet on Grosso, and I hear him offering just just straight odds on Grosso, straight up even money. He wants Grasso, anyone who wants to take Shevchenko. I already have money out on the fight, so I didn't take it. Some guy takes him up on the offer, and so I'm thinking this guy's a crazy person. You can go to any book and get 3-1 on Grasso, and you're walking around here asking for even odds for Shevchenko. And lo and behold, Grasso goes and gets this. We're all laughing at this guy walking around asking for these odds on Grasso, and she goes out and gets it done. And this guy's the only one laughing at the bar at the end of the night. So that was a really cool event for me. Even though I lost a ton of money on that because I was pretty strong on the rest of the card, but just seeing that guy just smiling ear to ear, knowing he's the only one at the entire bar that was on the right side, it was kind of a funny thing, kind of a humbling thing as a UFC gambler. Sometimes you think you know everything and you don't. This is a sport that will surprise you uh, when you least expect it, and it certainly did here. Grasso very deserving to get the win here. Um, so Grasso for upset of the year for me. Next, we'll move into fight of the year. Um, this one is a little difficult. This one's gonna have some bias as well. Um, there's a few on here that I considered. Makachev versus Volk being uh, the first one being probably my runner up for this. Just an amazing war there, a war I will maintain that I think Volk won. But I decided on another fight, and this fight is a great fight. Maybe not as impactful long term as that title fight was, but this is one I actually gone up to the casino for this card, and I'm sitting in the casino, and there was a fight earlier on this card where me and my friends were on the wrong side. We'd had a good card, went all in on a fight earlier on this card, and were on the wrong side of it, and decided we were picking a spot to try and make all our money back and more. And we picked this guy, and almost everyone else in the casino was on the opposite side of us. Um, they're all thinking we're crazy. They're all trying to talk us into cashing out our tickets and getting on the other side with them, and we're very insistent. We're very big fans of this guy. I'm now very big fans of both of these guys, but we're very big fans of this guy. We tell him, no, we're very confident in the guy that we're on. And for a large portion of this fight, it looked like we were on the wrong side. But this guy pulled off a miracle like he does often. He's a guy who will always go to war for your money. And both of these fighters, I'm very confident in putting my money behind now. This is even the loser of this fight. This is an award that goes to both of them. This is going to be Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner, and just such a fun event to sit there and root for Dan Hooker. Against all odds, just having everyone else in the casino rooting against us and being correct for most of the fight, and then being able to throw out those "I told you so"s just right after it finishes. It was just one of my favorite UFC gambling moments of my life. Very fun event. A good group of friends. Love those guys. Love that we got to spend time together and watch this fight. So that is going to be my fight of the year. It's going to be Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner. Fighter of the year female. If it wasn't already obvious, we've already talked about her. I think she is the runaway, and it's going to be Grasso for this award as well. Just the upset of Shevchenko, her retaining that title, getting the draw again in the year with Shevchenko. Just an amazing year for her. No one saw this coming. She's able to get this done against all odds. Just not that much more to say about it. She's just had a very impressive year. You can't take anything away from her. She is certainly the fighter of the year for the women's division in my book. The fighter of the year for the male. this is a fighter we haven't discussed yet on here, and I'm going to understand why some people are going to disagree with this. They're going to say that the people he has beaten this year are not as impressive of wins as they might have once been. But beating the guys that he beat is such an impressive feat to me. Is something that I was against him all the way to this point. And even though I agree that these guys aren't once who they once were that he beat, he still beat these guys. And you can't take that away from him. And on his record, it's always going to look as impressive as we should remember it as. My fighter of the year is going to be Leon Edwards. Beating Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington is no easy task. I don't care what part of the career they're on. I don't care what he's on the upward trajectory. They're on the downward, whatever you want to say. I'm not taking anything away from Leon Edwards here. To beat Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman in the same year when those two guys were talked about as just dominating this weight class for years now, just being number 1 and 2, no question about it. They shouldn't even be fighting other people. They're just dominating everyone else in the division. Leon Edwards beat them both in 2023. He is going to be my 2023 fighter of the year. And there are certainly other impactful ones. John Jones definitely in the discussion here, but just with the one fight makes it kind of difficult for me to do that there. Makachev obviously is up there, but beats Volk once, who's coming up in a weight class, and then beats Volk the second time when he's obviously not in the right mental state, coming in short notice. They just don't quite impress me as much as the wins that Leon Edwards was able to get this year. So good for Leon. Wish him well going forward. We'll see what's next for him, but he is going to be my fighter of the year. And so the final two awards, if you've been watching the show before, we have Zilla's Zeros and Heroes, the guys that we love to support, bet on, we're going to be favoring, and then the Zeros, the guys that we are not betting on anymore, the guys, who have let us down. And these are two guys who would have made that list for me if it had started before I started the show. These are two guys that are very deserving of spots on these lists. And so on this awards show, we're going to go ahead and add these two guys to the list. First is Zero of the Year. This guy took the hardest heel turn I've ever seen in the UFC. A guy named Ian Gary is right behind him, but just a guy who's very hateable, a guy who has now shown how vulnerable he is mentally, a guy who I just straight up don't like anymore, a guy who I really used to support. It's got to be Israel Adesanya. I mean, after all the stuff with his dog and going after Pereira and signaling at his kids and then losing to Sean Strickland, I mean, there's just nothing likable about Izzy. He's cringe. He's kind of just an asshole. I can't see myself backing him anymore. I don't want to back him anymore. He's just a very hateable guy, a very hateable character at this point in his career. So for me, the Zero of the Year and being added to our Zilla Zeros list is going to be Israel Adesanya. And then the Hero of the Year on the other side. This is a guy who I've doubted at every turn. A guy who really deserves he really deserves his flowers at this point, because all he's done repeatedly is prove me wrong. I think I've bet against him probably in 3 straight fights, I would guess. 2-0 in 2023. And a guy that I'm going to be backing without question going forward. I have to learn to trust in this guy. This guy's a very talented fighter. I think he's going to be the champion. This guy is Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis is our hero of the year. I find him very likable. I think he's what he's doing, checking Sean Strickland. I'm a Sean Strickland guy, but Sean Strickland loves to go after all these other fighters, and du Plessis throwing it back at him. I'm not sure Strickland can take it. I think du Plessis is already in his head. Du Plessis is a big, powerful fighter. I think he's going to give fits to Sean Strickland, even if he is at his best. I have a lot of faith in Dricus du Plessis. I hadn't for a very long time, and I've learned the error of my ways. That Whitaker fight was so impressive to me. I wouldn't have imagined him being able to dominate Robert Whitaker the way he did. And so now I'm just hands off the wheel. I am letting Dricus drive. He is going to be our hero of the year. And that is going to wrap up our 2023 Christmas awards show. I really appreciate those of you who watch. I know these probably aren't going to be our higher viewership videos. People really are looking for the picks, but unfortunately we still have a couple weeks until we get back to the UFC, so a little content we're getting out there for you in the gap. But I hope you guys, we're only about halfway through the holiday season, so really hope you guys have a great rest of the holidays. Like I said, in about a week I'll have another video out for you. Go ahead and let you know that one's going to be a little bit about what we're hoping to get in 2023 or 2024, our 2024 resolutions video. Just the fights we want to see, who we'd like to see become champion. So if you have any ideas about those, again, leave them down in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe. We really want to build that subscriber count so we can keep doing fun things like this. More subscribers we have, the more input we'll have on things like this. Hopefully we'll be able to do some form of voting for our award shows next year. But until then, guys, really appreciate you. Please keep watching, like and subscribe. See ya.